Let's just get straight into it. Hi, my name's Max. I'm a aspiring artist, and one of the main reasons I wanted to get into art is because of anime and manga. Yeah, I just wanted to make a fun little top 15 favorite anime of all time. Put some of my own art in the video. I also put a couple honorable mentions that I think people should still watch. But then we're going to get into the elite shows. Also, I was totally sick, like recording half of these, so just bear with my voice. So, anyways, let's get this started with the first honorable mention. I watched Gachi Yakuta recently, waiting for the whole thing to come out, and I had a pretty fun time with the show. I think it's one of the best newer anime coming out right now, and now that MHA is over, it looks like Studio Bones is putting all of their talent into this anime. Season 1 had surprisingly good quality, but if we get more insane episodes like 21, this show would become one of the most popular new gens. Rudo is also dope, and all the side characters are really fun. And some plot points got a lot darker than I anticipated. Can't wait for Season 2 to come out. JJK is probably the best example of hype moments in Aura. Like, the main appeal of the show is the insane levels of animation and its fights. But what I think the show does well is the establishment of its characters. There are so many characters in JJK that you could choose as your favorite, and you would be completely valid in choosing them. Most of these characters go through insane levels of development, with certain characters having layers upon layers of growth, and peeling each layer back reveals just how much effort Gege Akutami put in when writing this story. Yuji is the obvious example, but I would argue Geto and even Gojo are some of the most interesting and thought-provoking characters, with both of them going down different paths. I can understand why this would be in someone's top 5. For me, I would have to do some more digging, and probably a rewatch once the anime is complete. Season 3 is currently airing, and it's proving that MAPPA can produce better animation every single season. Hopefully this time they don't overwork the animators to the point where they put out an unfinished episode. I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched half of these honorable mentions in a while. I watched Death Note almost 6 years ago, but I remember it being an incredible thriller with such a cool aesthetic. The first 26 episodes were amazing, but the rest of the show's quality did tank a little bit. It was still good, and I like the new characters more than most. Like, just because Nier is a replacement doesn't mean he isn't a cool ass character. But yeah, those 26 episodes were something else. I have to give this show a rewatch, but I don't know if that could squeeze it into the top 15. Still would recommend it. It took me too long to finally get to watching Dragon Ball Z, but it was really good. It's the most popular anime of all time for a reason. The fights, the transformations, the villains, everything just works so well. Full transparency, I watched DBZ Kai, and the pacing of that show was just perfect. I don't think I could have sat through the original 300 or something episode run. The Saiyan and Frieza saga were amazing, some of my favorite anime arcs, and the Cell saga was just as engaging. I do think the Buu saga isn't as good as the other two, but there's still a lot of good stuff. I enjoyed the magic angle of the universe, and Super Gohan and Gotenks were sick. I haven't watched Super, but I've watched the movies, and the Broly movie is the best one, and he's the coolest character. DBZ is a definite classic of the industry, and was one of the most enjoyable shows to watch, and is also one of my favorites to draw. Like the Super Saiyan transformation is just too cool not to draw. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. Fooly Cooley is a 6 episode gem that I desperately need to rewatch. Not only does it have one of the most expressive art styles, not only is it one of the best coming of age stories dealing with mature themes in the wackiest ways possible, but it also has one of the greatest soundtracks made by The Pillows. And it just adds to this early 2000s vibe that the show has. The only reason it's in the honorable mentions is because I don't remember it that much, but I know it would be higher if I did. This show would also probably be in the top 10 if I rewatched it, but I can't give an honest opinion if I don't remember much of what happened in the show. The premise of the show is pretty much medieval mob psycho made by Wit Studio, who you might know from other shows. It's about the prince of this kingdom who was born deaf and mute, whose dad was like this super strong giant. The whole point of the show is watching this prince go from an underdog to someone who he believes deserves to sit on the throne. And just look at him. He's as sweet as grandma's cookies. All the side characters are great too, and subvert a lot of fantasy tropes. Like the stepmother, instead of being evil, is one of the nicest characters in the show. There's plenty of other amazing examples just like this, making the show feel like a fresh take on the fantasy genre. Alright, now we're getting into heated territory. We're at the official top 15 ranking. There might be some hot takes in here, and if you get mad, just remember, I'm 100% right, and your opinion is invalid. Except for the number 15 spot, but I already spent 8 hours on the art, so... Evangelion is amazing. This is one of the coolest anime I've watched. Even though I think Ranking of Kings and Fooly Cooly are a little bit better, Evangelion still deserves its dues. To start off, it is the 90s anime. If someone says 90s anime, 9 times out of 10, you're going to think of Shinji's dumbass fighting angels in his giant purple mech. The soundtrack, too, is just so immaculate. It's one of the most memorable things about the show. This will probably be a constant for most of these rankings, where I'll be talking about OSTs, but most of these shows just have amazing music backing them. The Evangelion music is just so perfect at portraying certain aspects of the show, like the characters. Hedgehog's Dilemma is one of the first things that come to my mind, being a perfect piece for Shinji and his self-loathing. The song is named after the Hedgehog's Dilemma, where the hedgehog is too prickly to get close to anybody and ends up hurting them. You could also think of the epic battle music by Shiro Sagisu, or even the classical music ripped straight from Mozart, slapped onto the show, giving it such a grand, larger-than-life vibe. And then you have Kam Susser Todd with the complete opposite, with more modern vocal pieces, adding to the surrealist horror happening on screen. And the outro being Fly Me to the Moon, it's amazing. There's so much to love about the show, but I can't put it any higher right now because I had no idea what was actually going on. And people are going to be like, you can't understand the complexities of this masterpiece. But I think even with a rewatch, it would still have its placement. Maybe if I watch all the movies, it'll be higher. But I still appreciate it for what it is. I'm also not that big of a fan of the depressed protagonist, even if it works beautifully in Evangelion. Shinji is one of the best protagonists and deserves his flowers. Or maybe not. We gotta give respect to the GOAT of shonen anime. The first anime I watched that was over 100 episodes, we got Naruto. I think Naruto is a show that in recent years has been overshadowed by One Piece. But I think Naruto does so many different things and does them so well. While One Piece is a larger scale epic, Naruto is a much more personal story. Naruto as a protagonist is just amazing. And I'm gonna say it, I think he's a little better than Luffy. I do think they're very similar in their character arcs. But I just think Naruto's goals and what he does makes me love him a little more. I think that's also in part done through Naruto's world and what Kishimoto excels at, his villains. Naruto has some of the best villains in any anime. Pain is a top 3 villain, and he's better than any One Piece villain, even Doflamingo. And that's saying something, because Doflamingo is one of the best One Piece characters. Like, look at those piercings and that coat. You know what? Let's just look at the whole Akatsuki. Look at these matching outfits. I think the reason most of the Naruto villains work so well is because they are products of a world built off of conflict and war. And they mirror Naruto, showing the audience what he could have become. And Naruto understands this. He knows what it's like to grow up alone and ostracized by everyone in his village, with hate in his heart. It lets him be sympathetic and try to help everyone around him, including his villains. I find this so compelling, and everyone likes to joke about the Talk no Jutsu, which is super funny, but I think it works perfectly for the world of Naruto. Naruto even uses it in his first arc, which has got to be the best first arc in any shonen. It also has the best fights in any anime. Most of Naruto's animation does kind of suck, but they knew where to put the budget. If you're ranking anime fights, your top 5 is going to consist of at least 4 Naruto fights. Like, just look at some of this Sakuga. Naruto vs. Pain just looks so damn good. Naruto vs. Sasuke round 1 and 2 had some of the best hype out of any series I've ever watched. And Rock Lee vs. Gaara literally brings you to tears. That's how good it is. In terms of fights, Naruto clears. Now, enough with the glaze. There are some big, glaring problems with the show. The first one, the side characters that are made to seem super important in OG Naruto are pretty much sidelined in Shippuden, which is so annoying. So many characters that were being built up alongside Naruto do absolutely nothing in Shippuden. But I can understand why. A select few still get some focus, but we could have got a little more love for Rock Lee and Neji.
It worked like a charm. I knew if I said I want to be last, I would be next. It is a form of reverse psychology.
Hooah! That's my student.
Kishimoto was hyping up their rivalry just for it to go nowhere. The second biggest issue is that there's a pretty big fall off in quality right after the Pain arc. The 5 Kage Summit is still pretty good, but once the War arc starts, it's just such a chore. Here's all these no-names fighting side characters that haven't been focused on since they were 12. There's still some amazing moments and fights at this point in the show, but it definitely left its mark on the overall quality. So with that in mind, I can't really put Naruto any higher, but it has had one of the biggest impacts on me out of any of these shows. Netflix is underrated for producing some of the best exclusive anime. 3 of them have made the top 15. And the first one I want to talk about is Megaloboxing. Megaloboxing and Nomad. This is the anime version of the underdog boxer story. Other than Ippo, I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know. But it's so much more than that. The world it takes place in is this future where cities are highly developed, while everyone else is left with scraps. And boxing is done with mechanical enhancements. And the main character fights without them as a sort of gimmick, and realizes he can take it to the big leagues. The first season focuses on this journey, and it's amazing on its own. But the second season, Nomad, is where it shows the aftermath of earning this kind of fame. It shows how he fell into depravity and became a more cynical person. Both of these series combined tell such a beautiful story about personal growth and learning from your mistakes. Satoshi Kon. If you're an anime fan, you've probably watched at least one of his movies. Perfect Blue, Paprika, Tokyo Godfather, all of them are masterpieces. So good that Hollywood even copied him. But I think one of his best works is Paranoia Agent, a 13-episode psychological thriller with some of the best visuals in any anime. If I gave a plot synopsis, you'd probably be super confused, but it has all the hallmarks of Kon's works all over it. And with a beautiful message about what it means to really accept your faults, this one is definitely worth watching. I have been waiting to talk about Code Geass. And to start, let's talk about the art. The art style was so weird to me at first, but after a couple episodes, it quickly grew on me. The mech designs got way better as the story progressed, and the characters were very expressive. And the outfits were for the most part very good. All the characters have this regal feeling, but still feel cute, with some even feeling gothic. Like my goat, Lelouch. People are always saying, Optimus Prime is the best leader in fiction. or Captain America, or Luffy's the best leader. After watching one season of Code Geass, I would die for Lelouch. I would literally go on the front line for that man. And he wouldn't even have to use his Geass on me. He's just that guy. He is easily my favorite anime MC, and he's one of the most charismatic characters to watch. People love to group him together with Light Yagami and Eren, but they probably wish they could be half the character Lelouch is. Like, both of them just become psychos, except Eren, who was always a psychopath. But the reason Lelouch is so interesting is because he's always on the edge of turning evil, but is also in a constant moral battle with himself. You see him learn from his mistakes, not just as a tactician, but in a moral way as well. He'll treat himself like a god, but then he'll pull back, becoming a human again. There are moments where this man is utterly defeated, and he will still get up and do what he ultimately believes is right. And all the other characters are just so good. Even that chud, Suzaku, he is one of the most fascinating characters, and even though he's a bum, he had a beautiful character arc, going from friend to complete enemy, while ultimately remembering his roots. Nearly every character is written this well. The only reason it isn't any higher is because the first couple episodes were a bit more challenging to get through, and the fan service is borderline worse than One Piece. But that ending, easily the best anime ending ever. Devilman Crybaby is a perfect modern reimagining of an older show. I haven't watched the original Devilman, but from what I've seen, it pretty much keeps the core themes and events while putting them into a modern setting, and adding a few things here and there. Anyway, if you've never watched this show, imagine something that would be one of the main inspirations for Berserk. The main character, Akira, is turned into a devil, but instead of taking over Akira's body, he lets Akira have control, creating Devilman, a devil who fights to save humanity with the guidance of his white-haired friend who seems to have a god complex. This show is amazing, and only having 10 episodes makes it hit that much harder. The animation, too, is so loose, and it lends itself to so many expressive movements, which helps contrast the disgusting events happening on screen. It gets really dark, but it's one of Netflix's best anime, and one of the first anime I've watched. It's only been surpassed on this list by one other Netflix original. Number 9. Pluto is one of the most underrated anime, and it's such a shame because it has all the hallmarks of a successful show. It's just that Netflix didn't market it at all. This is one of the most beautiful anime I've ever seen. If you don't know, Pluto started as a manga based off one of Astro Boy's best arcs. Yeah, that Astro Boy, where a big robot called Pluto is the main antagonist, and Astro Boy has to fight him. The author of Pluto, Naoki Urasawa, had always wanted to make a more adult version of Astro Boy, and was finally able to do so. You feel all of that love and inspiration in every single scene of this show. The show took something for kids and threw in so many adult themes, with the one I resonate the most with being grief. One of the things I like about this show is that it's split up into 8 one-hour-long episodes rather than 24 20-minute ones, which helps with the pacing issues, because a lot of the runtime is taken up with talking and getting to know characters. It helps build the world of Pluto and its incredible characters, making you feel more sympathetic for them. I'd say that every single important character is dealing with some form of grief. The main character discovers this grief throughout the story. Dr. Tenma feels grief over the loss of his son. The other robots feel grief for the robots being mysteriously murdered by the entity known as Pluto. This is a story built on grief and how we deal with it. Some moments in the show can bring you to tears. The first episode spends 30 minutes focusing on a plotline that has little relevance until the very end, and it was so powerful. It was a genius move, making grief be shown through the lens of robots. If I had to choose one show that everyone should watch, it would be this one. Now the next one is one I'm investing my stocks into. I think if this next season lands, which I'm sure it will, this anime could go to my number one spot. I remember reading the manga for the first time and being astonished by what someone was able to accomplish. It didn't feel like I was reading a comic. It felt like I was watching a movie. I patiently bided my time until that sweet anime announcement, and then I not so patiently waited for that anime to be released. For the next 12 weeks, I would watch each episode over and over again. I couldn't wait for the next season. It was announced a year later that we would be getting a movie adaptation for the next arc. But we had to wait a damn year for a trailer. But when that trailer hit, it was bombastic. I saw this movie 3 times in theaters. I've watched this anime more than any other. Of course, you've probably figured it out by now. Chainsaw Man is MAPPA's magnum opus. Nearly everything about the first season was perfect. They captured the vibe perfectly, making it feel much more grounded with a dull color palette. Felt like watching a classic movie. The amount of effort that went into that first season was insane. Watching those episodes come out weekly blew my mind, seeing what animation could accomplish. It really was the most insane animation at the time. Until JJK Season 3, and these insane One Piece fights. Like, how do you even do this? And we'll get to that later. Watching the movie felt like seeing animation be flipped on its fucking head. The second half of this movie was pure balls to the walls action. If you compared the fight with the Typhoon Devil from the movie to the manga felt like it added 10 more chapters to the fight. It was the best thing I watched all year. JJK Season 3 has been really good, but I need more Chainsaw Man. The next arc is going to be crazy. Kobeni is finally going to get some more screen time. She's the most well-written character out of any of the shows on this list. Hunter x Hunter was a show that I had been putting off watching for a while. Once I started it, I binged it like my life depended on it. It is one of the best things I've seen. It just sucks that it isn't longer. This series could have had One Piece levels of longevity if it weren't for Togashi's poor health. Things are set up with an incredible payoff down the line, but we'll probably never get to see it. There's an entire episode in the anime dedicated to a character's backstory that we never get to see before or after, and it is one of the best episodes in the show. This guy, Gyro, was going to be an absolute menace. This man is set up to be an endgame villain, but we never get to see it. But I think that's kind of beautiful in a way. This part of the series focuses on Gon's story, while setting up so many other plotlines and characters. There's something strangely profound to me about setting up insane plotlines to have the reader not know how they're resolved, which is why I love this anime, even if the manga is still going. With my GOAT, Kurapika. The world building is amazing, rivaled only by One Piece, which is insane when you remember that the world we see in the show is a mere fraction of everything. I gave Naruto its praises, but it definitely took notes from Hunter x Hunter. While I don't think the Phantom Troop are better than the Akatsuki, I will admit that they are super cool, and walked so the Akatsuki could run. And Kurapika is definitely a better character than Sasuke, even if I still love that little psychopath. I love all the characters. A lot of my expectations were subverted. I thought I would hate Hisoka because he's a freak, but he became one of my favorite characters. The show also knows when to put its foot on the gas, because arcs start off slow, but they quickly become fight after fight, and moment after moment. If you've watched the series, just remember York New City, where it goes from earning money through arm wrestling to one of the most insane action arcs I've ever seen. Togashi knows how to write an incredible anime arc, and he also knows how to write the best. The Chimera Ant arc is, in my mind, undoubtedly the best shonen arc with one of the greatest villains, Meruem. This arc takes up nearly half of the show's runtime, but it is absolutely necessary. It's the magnum opus of shonen, feeling much more mature and dark than any other shonen anime I've seen. And that brings me to what I think the best part of the show is, being Gon. He is the perfect protagonist for an anime like this. He reminds me of Master Chief from Halo or Link from Zelda. He is the perfect vessel to experience this new world. Not in the sense of being a blank slate like the previous protagonists, but a blank slate in terms of his understanding of the world and other people. While most shonen throw middle schoolers into mind-blowing situations without a second thought, Gon is forced to experience the repercussions of being thrust into this dangerous world. He starts off as a natural talent and becomes even more of a prodigy, but he wants things done his way, as he's always been able to do. He throws caution to the wind, disregarding things like warnings and even the safety of his friends in order to win his way. He'll even let his emotions ruin a foolproof plan and lose limbs in the process. This all comes to a head beautifully in the final episodes of the Chimera Ant arc, where we see Gon pushed to the edge of sanity until he snaps. The show has been leading up to this. What was triumphant in shows like Dragon Ball and Naruto become horrifying. This is what Hunter x Hunter is about, what it means to be human, and the malice that comes with it. I do think that Hunter x Hunter is the best shonen anime, but at the same time, I wish it was longer. Like I said, this was originally going to have One Piece levels of longevity. If you asked me a year ago, I would not have One Piece at the number 6 spot. It would still be in the top 10. It does have the most emotionally resonating moments and backstories out of any anime, but some pacing moments made this show practically unwatchable in some arcs, so I just read the manga instead. While I think the best One Piece arcs are amazing, they never quite reached the heights of Hunter x Hunter or even Naruto's best arcs. Wano had a great story, but its length and pacing made it hard to love it. Yet, at the same time, we were getting animation never seen in the show before. Animation that looked like it came from a movie. Eventually, each week had a spectacle waiting to be watched, but for me, it couldn't make up for Wano's terrible pacing. But Egghead changed all of that. Egghead took everything great about every single arc in One Piece and threw away all of the garbage. We're no longer in the setup. We are in the golden age of One Piece. The final saga is here, and it started off with my new favorite arc in the show. Egghead is the epitome of everything amazing about One Piece. Incredible callbacks, beautiful fights, insane story reveals, and some of the best emotional moments I've seen. Egghead is by far the most emotional arc, for me, in the show, giving viewers arguably the most emotional backstory yet for Kuma and Bonnie. The only thing I can think of that's as sad and brought me to so many tears is Guts' backstory in Berserk and Grave of the Fireflies. Yeah, it's that bad. Kuma and Bonnie's journey always makes me cry thinking about it. And the craziest part is that the next arc is shaping up to be just as good, with even more revelations and more heartbreaking backstories. If you're an anime fan, you are doing yourself a disservice if you aren't catching up to One Piece. Yes, the pacing can be questionable at times. Yes, the fan service can be really bad at times. But if you're able to look past it, you'll become part of one of the greatest journeys you've ever seen. After 25 years, Oda is finally nearing the conclusion. Be there when the One Piece is revealed to the world. We are finally in the top 5. It's starting off with what I would assume are most of y'all's number ones. Attack on Titan is everything you've ever heard about it. Out of every show on this list, this one is the best packaged. No bad pacing, no slow moments, no filler, no fan service. Everything is there purely to serve one of the greatest stories ever told. Every season sees a significant increase in quality, which is crazy because season 1 was already great. By the time you get to season 4, it's on a completely different level. The show is animated by 2 studios, with the first being WIT, and they captured the essence of the series perfectly. Some scenes felt like you were using the ODM gear. The music was also incredible. Attack on Titan has an incredible soundtrack that adds so much to every single scene, especially the huge plot twists. You know which one I'm talking about. In 2020, the trailer for season 4 dropped, and I was skeptical about the studio change, but I think this was perfect from a thematic standpoint. Season 4 takes us to a new setting for the first couple episodes, and Mappa's gritty take on the style was perfect for showing us the horrors of war and oppressed people and the somehow even darker themes that the show is adopting. Watching this shit weekly, you had to be there. And when the reveal in season 4 happened, it was immaculate. Attack on Titan did it again. And then again a year later with season 4 part 2. Watching season 4 of Attack on Titan weekly is something that I'm never going to forget. One of the best experiences ever. And then we had the ending. Despite all odds, I dodged most spoilers for the ending. And when it came out, I absolutely loved it. I think that it beautifully tied everything together. Even though he isn't as good as Lelouch, I cannot deny that season 4 Eren was moving different. He was less of a main character and more akin to a force of nature. No one could anticipate his next move, as he slowly started to drive the story more and more, and slowly became a villain. The show is near perfect, which is crazy because there's still 4 more shows above it. I wouldn't say most of these are better than Attack on Titan, but they're pretty close. And while I love Attack on Titan, these 4 shows have things that I just love a little more. Gurren Lagann is the best mecha anime of all time. I love Evangelion, but depression can't beat out the indomitable human spirit. It does such a good job at just getting you hype for every new episode. Like it goes from this, to this, to this, to this, all in 26 episodes. Simon is an underrated protagonist, and his character growth feels so natural, and it's so amazing to watch. What feels like your normal cowardly MC with his cool older brother role model quickly turns into something completely unexpected. The first 8 episodes feel generic, but that's the point. The show lures you in and then shows you what it's really about. I'm not going to talk about the story anymore because of spoilers, but let me know if you'd want a video on Gurren Lagann. If that hasn't convinced you, let's take a second just to appreciate the character designs. They start off so simple, but become so amazing by the end. Look at Kamina. Look at his dapperness, those glasses. You will not find a cooler looking character in any other show. Look at this lady who's also a scorpion. This is peak character design. Look at these beautiful mechs. You can't name one mech that looks more badass than these. And the animation is just perfect. Animators from Evangelion at Studio Gainax came together to make this, and it became the first anime made by Studio Trigger, which went on to become legendary, animating so many other projects, with their last one being Cyberpunk Edgerunners. The way they animate is just so lively and fun, taking advantage of the medium of animation. Please watch Gurren Lagann, one of the greatest pieces of animation out there, with some of the best quotes of all time. There is only one style in anime that could beat Gurren Lagann, though. The most stylish, most fashionable, most beautiful, most flamboyant anime ever. The answer is obviously JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo's is the first anime I ever watched and is one of the best stories ever created, period. It's full of so many funny and strange things, and it all just adds to the charm. All while being one of the most brutal action shows that doesn't shy away from killing characters off most of the time. It also doesn't follow one protagonist throughout all 6 currently animated parts, instead following different JoJos from the same bloodline. This allows Araki to do so many different things without it feeling jarring. Going from a transcontinental trip to Egypt to kill a vampire, to a slice of life turned murder mystery in Japan, to a mafia story, and ending with a prison escape. It sounds insane when put like that, but it just works so well. You could pick any singular part to be your favorite, and it would be valid. My favorite is Diamond is Unbreakable, by the way, and Josuke is an underrated JoJo. And the power system is easily my favorite out of any anime. It starts off with Hamon, which is pretty much just chakra or ki, but after 2 short parts, it pretty much reaches the limit of its creative use. And then Araki creates stands, and it's pretty much just Nen, but if everyone's Nen ability was a ghost, or like robot or something, or even an electrical tower. The stands and stand fights are one of the coolest things about JoJo. And just look at these designs and abilities. You got fast punches, some healing, electrical tower, and King Crimson who can erase time, but everyone except him, and he can see the future. And when he erases time, he can do stuff in that time. But he also like kind of can't. JoJo has a top tier soundtrack. Every single part has at least 3 absolute bangers. Even the endings are songs that Araki would listen to while writing the parts. With part 3 being Walk Like an Egyptian, and part 5 being it's freaky shit. And the crazy thing is, they haven't even animated the best parts. We are finally getting a Steel Ball Run anime. And if they deliver, JoJo will probably become my number 1. And when JoJolion comes out, it's raps. Mob Psycho has my favorite animation out of any of the shows I've listed. I just love how expressive every single scene of this show is. And the character designs and the art style in general are just amazing. I love how simple it is and how detailed it can get. And Yutaka Nakamura made some of his best fight scenes in this show. But the fights are probably the least important aspect of the show. This is what I would consider a beautiful slice of life, with some of the best character writing of any show I've ever watched. Ever. And it's short and sweet. Please go check this out. Even if you don't watch that much anime, there's a big chance that you'll end up loving it. Alright, we're here. My favorite anime. After some heavy consideration, I decided that this was the only possible option. The only show on here with a story that is somehow more gripping, more tense, and more horrifying than Attack on Titan, while carrying so much hope in its back pocket throughout. Monster is without a doubt my pick for the greatest anime of all time, and one of the greatest shows of all time. It's not flashy, no crazy animation or music, but what is left without that is the greatest psychological horror thriller I've ever seen. To start, the main character, Dr. Tenma, is an incredible protagonist for this story. He's someone you could be so sympathetic towards by the end of the first episode. His character arc throughout is so intense, and you can just feel yourself debating what he should do throughout every single episode. Every character he meets is also given the same amount of care that he is, with beautifully defined personalities and motivations that only add to the story's themes. Let me give you a quick plot synopsis of the first couple episodes. It's not that crazy spoilers, you find this all out within like the first 3. So Dr. Tenma is this crazy surgeon, and he's probably the best one at the hospital he's working at. And one night, they bring in a child who was shot in the head, and Tenma is working on him to save his life. But then his boss tells him he has to let the child die so he can work on this powerful politician. But Tenma refuses because the child got there first, and then he saves the child's life, but the politician guy dies, and his boss pretty much like, he doesn't fire him, but he sort of makes him like everyone's enemy. And his fiance is his boss's daughter, and she leaves him because of what he did, and the kid is unconscious, and Tenma is talking about how much he hates his boss, how cruel he is, how deserving of death he is. And then one day the kid escapes, and Tenma doesn't see him again. And then his boss mysteriously dies, and Dr. Tenma becomes the main suspect of the murder. And then years later, Dr. Tenma is still working at the hospital. He's made a name for himself again. But then the kid comes back as an adult, and he murders someone right in front of Tenma. And so the story, you follow Dr. Tenma as he tries to sort of reconcile with the fact that if he didn't save this child, these murders wouldn't be happening. And so he takes it upon himself to be the one to kill Johann. The detective is one of my favorite characters, as Dr. Tenma is his main suspect, and he's just going all in on finding and capturing him, giving up every other aspect of his life to do it. And even though he's a bit of an asshole, it is really tragic to see what he's going through. I could go on and on about most of the characters, but the golden goose of Monster, and one of the best antagonists in anything that I've experienced, it's Johann Liebert. Right from episode 2, where you see him as a kid, you are already made aware of what kind of monster Johann is. He doesn't show up that much throughout the story, yet his presence is always felt, as Dr. Tenma follows any leads on finding him. He meets people who have been influenced by Johann. He goes to places that were completely destroyed by Johann. When he is on screen, not only is it scary, but it is also a quick, fascinating look into his mind. Johann is evil, but learning about his circumstances and what happened to him is something I was itching to find out. And while he's on screen, he is manipulating everyone into liking him. The only people that know who he truly is Dr. Tenma and Johann's twin sister. Another thing that I find fascinating about Naoki Urasawa's works is that after you watch or read them, you kind of forget the twists or the reasoning behind them. Some might think that's a bad thing, but I find it great for rewatching these stories. Or maybe I just have shit memory. Monster transcends anime for me and rivals shows like Breaking Bad in quality. Easily my pick for my favorite anime. Well, that's the end of the video. Yeah, I had a pretty fun time doing it. I think I'm gonna make more in the future about like individual shows on this list, or maybe like video games and stuff. I think I'm gonna focus more on the artistic aspects of these shows going forward. So, yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.